Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We know full well the challenges and the solutions of climate change, and we all know just how worried our constituents are about this crisis. And only this morning at Smallbury Green Primary School in Isleworth, I got asked about climate change, not just from a Year 5 student, but from a Year 2 student as well. Now, transport is the largest sector for emissions and the sector cutting emissions the least. And within transport, the sector with the fastest growing emissions is aviation. During the time emissions for the economy as a whole have fallen by 40%, aviation emissions have more than doubled. Passenger numbers are set to increase by 70%, and that growth is not business travel, Madam Deputy Speaker. Over half the British population don't fly at all in any given year. The highest income, 15% of the UK population, are taking over 70% of all our flights. The growth is leisure travel, outbound leisure travel. They're British-based tourists in the top income bands taking their holiday money away from the UK 3 or more times a year, away from places like the member from St Ives. Money that many of our beautiful places would be delighted to see spent here. The aviation industry mentioned magical solutions which will allow the airline industry to continue on a business-as-usual approach in a carbon-constrained world. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, electric planes, particularly for short-haul and long-haul, won't be online until 2050 at the absolute earliest. There is no current industry development for these larger flights, and the planes, long-haul, for instance, takes up 70% of UK air travel, yet there's no current development going on in those areas for electric planes. Yesterday, the Chief Executive of Heathrow Airport was on the radio talking about sustainable fuels for aviation. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we know that a rise in biofuels will only lead to more deforestation. This means more habits destroyed, more communities displaced, and more carbon emissions. And carbon offsetting by planting trees only removes, years from now, carbon emitted today. It's not an alternative to cutting emissions in the first place. Now, obviously, the Chief Executive of Heathrow Airport Limited dearly wants a third runway. But even the Department for Transport figures show, and this was in the work done in the run-up to the vote in 2018 in this place, DFT figures show that the additional passengers for runway 3 will almost all be UK-based passengers taking leisure flights overseas. And furthermore, Madam Deputy Speaker, expansion will draw long-haul flights away from regional airports, thus impacting on their direct international connections. Furthermore, expanding Heathrow will mean an extra 6 million tonnes of CO2 per year. Now, I'm glad that the Labour front bench, led by my honourable friend from Middlesbrough, has concluded in June 2018 that Heathrow expansion is incompatible with our climate change obligations, and Labour would not authorise Heathrow expansion or any other plans that jeopardise those climate targets. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, the solutions we should be promoting, the only carbon-saving solution to aviation, making a difference before 2015 when electric airplanes come on board, is to address the growth in demand. We need to stop runway 3 at Heathrow, address the pricing disparity between rail and flying, and implement a frequent flyer levy to replace air passenger duty.